banyak orang, not all, maybe some of you still having lunch. Yeah. So we're gonna start with another person from Google. Yeah. Inge is gonna talk here about smarter monetization. Talking about Admob. Okay. So without further ado, please welcome Inge.
Hi everyone.
Hello Inge.
My name is Inge. I think I'll just stand here. I am handling Admob for Indonesia. Today my topic is about smarter monetization. How do you maximize your revenue while still maintaining your users? So just a little bit of background. This is the data that we get from eMarketer saying that by 2019 there will be 1.4 billion smartphone users in Asia Pacific. So this number is actually more than all the regions combined. So we consider a lot of potential in Asia Pacific. And in less than 2 years' time, India will take over US in terms of smartphone sales, which comes slightly behind China as the first place. For the number of mobile developers itself, we see that currently in the whole world there are 20 million developers, 10 million out of which is mobile developers, and another 10 million is web developers. So we see the number of mobile developers already matches the number of web developers. Especially in APAC, we see that there are more mobile developers compared to web developers coming from, this really proved that APAC is the mobile first region. And the data that we get from Gartner also mentioned that by 2017 there will be more than 260 billion apps downloads each year. In the early stage of app economy, we may see that paid downloads is the best way to make revenue. But nowadays, 90% of the apps downloaded are actually free. So how do you ensure that you can still generate enough revenue to sustain your business? And how do developers actually monetize today? We see here 47% of the developers, they actually use advertising model, which is almost half of the developers. And coming to the second and third place is a paid per download and consumable app purchases, or it's what we call in-app purchase. Followed by subscription 16% and also e-commerce 6%. Of course, for e-commerce we will see a high increase in terms of the numbers because of the trend that we have right now. For advertising itself, we can divide into two, which is direct sales and mobile advertising. Mobile advertising is the one that uses ad networks such as Admob. And of course, a certain type of monetization model suits better for a certain type of apps. For example, in-app purchase will suit better for games, and subscriptions will suit better for books or magazines. Now we can probably agree that it's harder to make money as an app developer. So how do you still ensure that you can maximize your revenue while still maintaining your users? We are introducing what it's called by hybrid monetization. So if you're an app developer or you have an app, you may be wondering which monetization model that suits best for your app. But for hybrid monetization, it combines the targeted in-app purchase offerings with mobile advertising. So the goal is to maintain the positive ad experience while still maximizing your revenue. This is the survey that we did to some of the apps developers out there. They say 90% of them says that their apps have higher potential to generate more revenue, and 24% of them thinks that the hybrid model has the hybrid model is one of the best way to generate more revenue. One of the app developers that we surveyed are already using hybrid monetization model. So what is actually a hybrid monetization model? So the hybrid monetization model target the right users at the right time with the right monetization opportunity. In simple ways, we can divide your users into two groups, the buyer and the non-paying users. So for the buyers, we can still show them in-app purchase ads to increase your in-app purchase revenue. While for the non-paying users, since they are not going to pay anyway, we are going to just show them the regular ads coming from ad networks such as Admob. And this gives you a new revenue stream for your app. This is the case study that we have that the hybrid models could potentially double your revenue. For game developers on average, they can earn 54% extra revenue from the ads after they use in-app purchase house ads or hybrid model. So this means an increase of 117% compared to when they only use in-app purchase as their monetization model. Of course, for a certain type of games, the percentage will vary. Like for example, for casual games, the revenue share from ads can be around 70%. For role-playing games, then it's about maybe 20%, so it's much lower. For non-game apps, as revenue could make up to 63% of their total revenue. This is just a brief case study from one of our developers that already use in-app purchase house ads or hybrid model. So 6 Waves Hong Kong game developer and publishers, after they use in-app purchase house ads, they generate 60% of the users who pay for the first time. And 20% of the users who hadn't paid in the last 2 weeks were reactivated. Topsoft is an Australian mobile game company. After using in-app purchase house ads, the revenue grows 6 times over 2 months period. And they see a 20% increase in terms of average revenue per users. So a very simple principle of building an effective hybrid model is that first, it all comes back to your users. You need to understand who is your users and then what is their behaviors so you can segment your users correctly and predict their purchasing potential. And over the time, you'll optimize the format, timing, frequency, and placement of every monetization opportunity. And for this, finding or using the right tools is very important. We have here a very simple framework to help you to segment your users. We have 4 categories. First is the learners, which is the new users who become familiar with your game very quickly. But this user still doesn't pay. And the second one, we have burners, the one who spend a lot of amount of time in your game, but they still don't spend. And the third one, we have turners, users who actually spend a high amount of money in your game, but they have lesser activity. The fourth one is earners, which is the users who are the most important for your games or apps, because these users have a very high engagement and they also spend a lot to your app. Okay, so how do we improve user experience while still maximizing your revenue? I mentioned before that it all comes back to your users, that recognizing each user is different is very important. Some of your users may like to watch video, and that's when the video ad format comes to play. And some of the users prefer to click on an ad, and some others may choose to make purchases instead. But aside from these 3 users, you may have other users who don't actually spend to your app, but they help to share in their social media. So in a way, they become your evangelists for your app. And this user is very important as well because they help to bring more users to your games and apps. This is a very brief view of how Google Analytics can help you. First, you can discover a very basic information about your users, where they're coming from, what is their demography, how do they use your app and games, where did they find your games. And after you discover all these basic things, then you can understand more on how the users use your apps. For example, after they come to your homepage, which is the next screen that they go to? Is it the tutorial, or they go straight to the gameplay and all that? And you can also see how much they are contributing to your apps. And for Google Analytics, the data loads instantly, so you can basically take action immediately. I'm just going to briefly go through very quickly, because we have time, on what you can see in Google Analytics. So firstly, in Google Analytics, you can see the ARPU, or the average revenue per users. How much do they contribute to your app? And every time you do any promotion, of course, you want to increase both the revenue and the ARPU. Because if your revenue is increasing, but the ARPU is decreasing, then it means you're not targeting the high-spending users. You can also check the lifetime value of your users, which is very important. It shows, like, from day one, for example, how much impact they give to your app. From cohort analysis, you can check the retention of users, which is when they start playing your apps in day 0, how much of them actually coming back in day 1, day 2, and so on. This is actually my favorite part in Google Analytics, which is the behavior flow. So here you can clearly see the journey that your users took by using your apps. So you can see the first screen, and then the second screen, and third screen. So you can get a lot of insight from this behavior flow. One of them is that you can see which screen do your users actually quit your apps. So from there you can, for example, in here, there are a lot of users are quitting. The red one is means the users are quitting your app, and they are quitting from the first screen. So from this, you can basically revisit your app and see what is happening in your apps, why your users is quitting your app from the first screen onwards. Is it because they don't know what to do after they're opening your app, or it doesn't show them the content that they want? So basically, you can adjust your app based on these insights and just retain more of your users. So after you understand about your users, then you can segment accordingly using the custom audience builder. So the segmentation can be manually set. For example, you want to segment hardcore users and then mid-core users, which is hardcore, which is the one that reached level 5. Or you can also segment the users that are more loyal to your apps, which is the one that spend average 3 minutes per session when they're using your apps. Or the one that is more high spending, the one that spent $10 in the past 30 days. And for each type of segmentation, you can show the right ads for the right segmentation of users to maximize your revenue. If you're lazy to do the segmentation manually, then we also have the feature to automatically predict which of your users that will be more likely to pay and which of your users that will less likely to pay. So for the users that will be more likely to pay, then we will show in-app purchase house ads, which is your in-game item house ads, to help you to increase your in-app purchase revenue. While for the one that is less likely to purchase, then we will show the normal Google ads. So this will open up the new revenue stream to your app. Just a little bit of example on how to use audience segmentation to drive engagement is, for example, in Google Analytics, you see that most of the people, they quit at level 10 after they failed 15 times. So there are actually two actions that you can get from these insights. First, you can check whether your level 10 is too hard. that makes people quit your app. And if it is too hard, then you can adjust the level of difficulty. And the second one is that if you see most of your users quitting after 15th trial, then you can basically show them ads before they abandon your app. So this means that you maximize your revenue from your users, because once they abandon your app, they may not be coming back. And aside from user segmentation, the right ad format is also important. So we have here the native ads. If you see here, the look and feel of the native ads is very similar to the content of your app, and this gives a better performance and better click-through rate as well for your apps. And why Google native ads is, first, we push update on server side, so whenever you want to try different campaigns, different creative or design of your ads and see which one is performing better, you don't need to push updates to the Play Store or App Store. You can just do it manually from the backend. And we also offer cross-format, which is app install and content native ads. And we have strong demand, and we give full flexibility over the ad design and ad appearance. We also have True View video ads, which allows the users to have the choice to only see the video only when they want to. And again, this also gives a better user experience for your users. We just recently announced the new interstitial ads, which blends in with material design. So the new interstitial format has a better appearance, and also this will give better user experience and better performance for your revenue. So if you have a different variety of apps in your portfolios, then we also recommend to use internal cross-promotion. We also have this feature in Admob. You can set the impression based on click goals or impression goals or percentage of traffic. And this will help you to jumpstart your new app, because the users who already use your app will be more likely to try your other apps compared to completely new users. If you have direct sales, for example, Garuda comes to you and then they want to put ads in your homepage and pay you a certain amount of money, then you can also do that with Admob. So lastly, if you want to try different ad networks, then you can use mediation, because different ad networks performs differently at different times. So if you're using mediation, then we will make sure that you will get the best. We will serve you the ad networks that gives you the best revenue. So for the whole time, you don't need to change any coding in your implementation whenever you want to try different ad networks, because we will do it automatically from the back end, and you will receive the maximized revenue for the whole time. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Just now you said about direct placement. Let's say Garuda wants to buy ads via Admob. How do you do it?
So in Admob there is the feature called reservation. So you can basically get the creative from Garuda side, and then you can just put in the reservation dashboard, and then you can set the duration or whether it's a impression goal or percentage of traffic campaign, and then it will just serve automatically. And then once the duration is finished, you don't need to do anything. It will be automatically serving the normal Google Ads. We don't have any role on the payment. So if it's direct sales, then you will control all the payments from the third party side. Okay, thank you.